Hello, I'm Mackenzie, and for this week's current event topics, I was chosen to cover how to market river cruises to Gen Z. So for this current event, as I said, I was given the opportunity to talk about river cruises and how the marketing community is able to market them to Generation Z, which are those born between the years of 1997 and 2012. Considering that I had genuinely never heard of river cruises prior to this assignment, I felt it necessary to give a proper definition behind it. A river cruise can be defined as a form of leisure travel that takes guests along inland waterways. Now that that has been said, I find it to be important to distinguish the difference between a river cruise and a normal cruise, which can be identified by the fact that river cruises do not travel across the sea. They are like cruises held on smaller waterways. After I had a firm foundation on what a river cruise was and how it is different from a regular cruise, it is now time to determine the marketing behind it all. These are three of the key issues that will be discussed in this presentation as it pertains to river cruising. There are many issues that river cruises face, which makes the marketing segment of it all rather tricky. The biggest issues being unavoidable weather problems, the lack of visuals, and even the long-term lasting effects of COVID-19 on cruising itself. Though these may seem like major issues, many that are a part of Gen Z have looked past them to enjoy a holiday on water. From a statistical standpoint, 79% said that they would return for another. So why does this all matter in terms of providing the best marketing? The first concept and one of the biggest issues this industry faces is that of unavoidable weather issues. Weather is unpredictable. Even when we have the Weather Channel to rely on, not everything ends up being spot on. One of the biggest issues with the weather in this industry is the constant unknown factor of water levels. Water levels in inland routes can be either too low due to drought and other reasons, or the water level could be too high to travel on. A prime example of this would be river cruises in Europe and Asia being faced with a number of fluctuations in water levels because of the droughts in the area not allowing them to sail, or even water levels being too high to fit under bridges and through locks. These are what set them apart and are their primary sources of transportation power, and one of the main reasons people are so fascinated by this mode of transportation. A handful of issues could arise in this occurrence, including canceled cruises, potential hazardous wrecks, and overall lack of notice and reimbursement for your travels. This then arises an issue with those that make up the demographic of Gen Z. Because inflation is one of the highest problems Generation Z is affected by, this may turn them away from wanting to plan something like this due to the lack of reimbursement back to them for their potential expensive airfare or even the cruise itself. So what is a solution to this? You would provide all the other great things about the river cruise itself in an attempt to look past the unforeseeable event of a cancellation. When it comes to river cruises, most people are there to enjoy a break or a holiday and relax with scenic views and things to do around town. Unfortunately, in many cases, those who have purchased the more expensive rooms that provide a window and a balcony are unsatisfied with their stay because of the underlying factor that many of these balconies have a view of the walls of the canals they will be traveling through. On the contrary, if it's not a wall you're seeing from having a room on the lower decks, it will be only half the excitement because you can't see everything from your room. A balcony lets you see only one side of the river, whereas everywhere else on the ship you can see both sides at once. And who wants to miss half a river? With this comes another discrepancy by which if you do purchase a room with a balcony, it takes away from the space of the room in order to fit into the narrow locks river cruises have to go through. As a way to move past these shortcomings and bring forth a new perspective to other amenities that are offered, the focus is expanding to attract active travelers, time-starved professionals, families, solo travelers, first-time cruisers, travelers on a budget, and those with a younger mindset. This applies to those who make up the demographic of Gen Z, considering we are a younger generation of people to which most of these factors are applicable. A few ways that marketers for river cruises are able to accommodate to this generation is by offering things such as microcations, which are river cruises with shorter itineraries, becoming more flexible and personable through things like the menu they provide or even the excursions and cruise plans, and also enhancing their technology with things like GPS tracking tools to ensure voyagers can not only find new locations to explore, but also find their way back to the river cruise itself. One of the bigger issues that have damaged river cruises is the long-lasting impacts of COVID-19. As we know, COVID has created a massive number of issues across all industries, causing many provisions to be made within the marketing community. As it applies to river cruises, they took a major dip in not only sales, which were down by 80% in 2020, but also cancellations and passenger numbers. Though this pandemic has caused an initial major hit on the river cruise industry, cruising via river became a more popular way of travel than that of a normal cruise on the ocean. This is due to the fact that they are much smaller vessels with much fewer people to be around on board. Because this became so popular, it was important for these cruises to nail down on COVID guidelines for all passengers or potential passengers. A few ways they were able to do this was through almost all lines in the industry enforcing the rule of being vaccinated at least once or fully vaccinated, making all guests wear masks on board, and also requiring quarantine until testing negative for guests who have somehow caught COVID throughout their stay. These guidelines are especially important to those who attend all types of cruises because of the factor that they will be staying in close proximity for the entirety of their vacation or getaway. Now, under the consideration of the 4 C's of marketing, there are many ways each is applicable to river cruising. The first of which is content, which is everything that goes into river cruises and what it provides to its customers. A way that we could begin alternating the content of river cruises to those who make up Gen Z is by incorporating new excursions that go to fascinating new places that are less visited by the majority. There are multiple ways to do this. The biggest determining factor is knowing your target market for these water vessels. By being a part of Gen Z, I find it to be important to have access to Wi-Fi for all guests on board, as well as beverages to enjoy and an itinerary plan suitable for all passengers, all of which can be targeted to the needs and wants of the passengers. This means for the conduit of things, they should be able to choose their rooms at the point of purchase rather than finding out the day of. A way they could do this is by having a picture reference per the boat, which should be presented in the best state possible. Selling the boat is a major part of the experience as well. If you sell luxury at a reasonable price, more consumers will be willing to indulge in a stay on your river cruise. Moving on to the convergence side of things, as I stated previously, providing personalized menu items based on the likes of the customer could have a major impact on how they will feel for the entirety of their stay. If the food isn't what they would normally eat, it can leave them with buyer's remorse upon purchasing this vacation. Another way convergence is taking place is through GPS trackers, which were also previously mentioned. Finally, on the consumption side of things, many of which can be traced back to where you purchased your ticket, whether that be via an online website or an app, or upon arrival, which is rare for events such as these days. It is also applicable to how you are receiving services like cleaning, waiting, management, and many other things. Overall, I feel as though I've been able to learn many things on the topic of river cruises and potentially come up with a few ways of my own on how to market them to Gen Z. After doing this immense research, I now have to consider my vacation options. I would love to go on a river cruise abroad and see new things without being overly crowded by people, though I have never been on a normal cruise either. I hope you are also left with the same pondering thought. Thank you guys so much for listening to this presentation. If you have any questions, please ask me in Packback. Bye.